Welcome to the Morning Nerdy News. I'm your host, Gray Falcon. I'm going to go ahead and get right into this because I've got quite a bit that I need to kind of rush into today. I'm working on Destiny for getting Anarchy, and I have everything I need for it. I've got all the spoils, but I do have to finish 10 more things this morning in order to go to Xur, get the item I need in order to go trade it in order to get Anarchy. And it's assuming I even have enough resources for it. So I might still have to go grind resources after that. So we'll probably transition to that afterwards, not immediately afterwards. We'll do a little cut off and then I'll come back on, and then this will go up on YouTube later on in the day if you miss any of it. But we're going to go ahead and get right in here, and we're going to start off with some tech news first. So here on Ed and Gadget, we're talking about LG rollable phone is a tantalizing response to Samsung's foldables. So they show it down here, and basically it just slides out, slides back in, and kind of the expectation that we'll see this later this year. Now, this isn't the first time we have seen an item like this. TCL also showed off a prototype of this last year, and it was believed that it was going to come out last year, but of course, everything that happened, all the pandemic and everything preventing stuff from getting out the way it should, so unfortunately we didn't see that. So we might have some competition here, though, on a couple of rollout phones where basically you just get this thin little stick. Think of it as like having a pencil or a pen in your pocket, and you slide it out, you roll it out, and there's your phone. It goes phone mode, kind of like here, and then tablet mode. So you can get a whole lot of really unique and interesting things with how phones are going to be available as smaller and larger at the same time. So I'm really looking forward to this. Fortunately, I'm an Apple user, so it'll probably be a while before I see anything close to this because, well, it's Apple. They're going to wait for the technology to be perfected, then go in and do it themselves and try and perfect it more. So we're probably looking at 5 to 10 years on that one, unfortunately. But this is really cool on the Android side, and this makes me kind of want to switch back to Android again just to check out this type of technology. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and get the gaming news on here. And I want to this is mostly just going to be games that are coming out. So the January games with PlayStation, we have Frostpunk, Surviving Mars, and The Crew 2. Over on Xbox side, we're getting Nightmares, which is available all month long, Dead Rising for the second half of the month, into the first half of next month. And then we're going to go ahead and cover the coming soon to Game Pass, where we get Football 2021, we get Little Acre, we get Torchlight 3, Injustice 2, and then we're going to see Neoverse, The Remains of Edith Finch, and Uke. I'm guessing that's how that's pronounced. Sorry if I am botching this and these are some of your favorite games, but not really something that I've seen before. Maybe it's incredible. I'm going to get into something that I haven't done before. I wanted to get in and cover Magic the Gathering. So this is something that I've gotten back into in the last few months. I've really been enjoying it. I've been playing Commander. That's what my brother was into. I must say, I played way back in the day. Like, I started during beta, and I once upon a time had a lot of really awesome cards, and either through those being thrown out, not because of me, but, parental guidance at the time for, people getting the scare of, oh, it's Magic, it leads to dark stuff, don't do that. And then later on, just selling off the rest of my collection that I did manage to keep from later on when I was playing in high school. That got sold off, and I just kind of stopped playing, and I haven't really played in years. I've broken out a deck from something my friends gave me or something that I threw together every once in a long while, but it didn't have anything important in it. It was just something to play on the rare occasion that I had friends over that wanted to play, which, let's be honest, it was once every several years, so it never really saw the light of day for the most part. And then this summer, my brother was playing Commander. He let me borrow one of his decks. I really enjoyed it. And then I had a friend of a friend who was getting rid of a bunch of their Magic cards, and there wasn't anything too spectacular in there. It was mostly commons and uncommons, but it did go all the way back to revised for a lot of stuff. So I was able to get started and go into that, and I've started to pick up cards and play again and started to learn. So I wanted to go ahead and start covering that in this because it seems like something that's entertaining to me, and given that we are the morning nerdy news, and it is something that I can kind of competently speak on now, I wanted to go ahead and start adding this in here. So going forward, we will see some of these things coming up. Kaldheim, which is a new set that's just been announced. So if you don't know, Kaldheim is all based around Vikings for Magic the Gathering. And we have some very interesting cards that are in here. Now, there's a lot of good things that have been read through and a lot of interesting things, but I did want to go ahead and highlight two of the cards because they are kind of broken. One of them has the potential to win you a game on turn 2, and if you're playing Commander, turn 2 is really, really fast. Now, in a normal Magic game, that might not be as unexpected nowadays because so much of standard Magic, so much of competitive Magic wins really fast at times. But for Commander, that's a lot faster because it's one of those games that's typically more oriented to playing with friends. You want to spend time hanging out. You're trying to win still, but you're not necessarily trying to win immediately. So I find this to be a deck that's designed to be just a super, super fast win. And you know, if you're trying to be competitive with your friends, or perhaps your friend always breaks out a deck that constantly crushes you, this is something you might want to build and hope. I don't think it's going to cost a whole lot for you to get out and do. And it's going to be built around Cole the Forge Master. So what he does is whenever another token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. Creature tokens you control are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. So this allows you to have a setup to produce tokens really, really quick. So effectively what you need is an equipment that's equip 0. And so it can be any piece of equipment. It doesn't even have to be a good piece of equipment as long as it has equip 0 and the ability for token production. So yeah, it allows you to sacrifice a creature attached to a piece of equipment. So perhaps you have a creature that costs 1 red mana, and when you sack it, that creature then has the ability to go right back into play, and you just sack it over and over again. And then you just need the ability to generate a token off of any time something dies. So it is possible to do this within 2 turns if you have the proper mana ramp. Now that is going to be a little bit more difficult in red and white. I will admit that is something that is going to be unlikely with this setup, but it is possible. So just keep an eye out on that. So if you end up in a Magic game and you're like, oh, Cole is out here, well, Cole could be very, very quickly turn into an end game phase if he gets the right pieces. Chances are it's going to be closer to turn 3 or 4 just because of the cost of equipment and get everything out if you're not going to get the proper mana ramp. But it doesn't cost a lot in order to do this, and given that he is an uncommon, we should be seeing a whole lot of him available out there. Now, the other big one is Vorinclex, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that for anybody who loves Magic, but he is quite nasty because he has several special abilities, and we'll cover the one in particular here in a moment, but we'll just read through it at first. Trample Haste. If you will put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on the permanent or player instead. If an opponent would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half as many on each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead, rounded down. So the Middle part of this is the most interesting for you as the player playing him. So you all of a sudden, you get the 6 mana beast out. If you've mana ramped quickly and it's green, so who knows, maybe turn 2 or 3, depending upon what kind of ramp you pull. Maybe you have a Jeweled Lotus in there from the new Commander Legends, which, you know, kind of an overpowered land if you get it up front and early. So then you go into Planeswalkers, and this is where things get really nasty, is with Planeswalkers, because technically Planeswalkers are tokens. So a lot of these are available to go for their ultimate at less than double what their tokens are. So I'm just going to give an example just down here on Kaya, the Inexorable. So if for some reason you're playing a different commander and you went and drew him out, but just as an example, she has 5, but her ultimate is at 7. And what her ultimate does is you get an emblem at the beginning of your upkeep. You may cast a legendary spell from your hand, from your graveyard, or from among the cards you own in exile without paying its mana cost. So all of a sudden, immediately, she comes out, 10 tokens, -7, so she's still not even dead, so she can still do exiles and other things on different turns. And at your upkeep, every turn, you're now dropping legendary creatures all over the place. That is really powerful if it's built into this deck somehow. There's also green, where you could make him your commander, and everything is just constantly popping off if you go for pure green with him as your commander, knowing that you have access to him anytime you want. And then it gets even worse for your opponents, though. So this ability then rounds down tokens. So let's say they play their commander. Well, one of their abilities is +1, and they can't use that +1 anymore, because remember, it's half rounded down. So a +1 is now a 0, which absolutely eliminates the ability of that card to even function beyond its negative ability, which oftentimes is only going to be the middle one. Now, there are some of these that have the abilities that apply to everyone without having to plus or minus, which is fine, that you can still take advantage of that because you're not actually using any of that. But it really puts a damper on Planeswalkers. Another one of these really dangerous cards that are coming out here soon. So if you were seeing this in Commander or other things, be prepared to flee for the hills, because chances are you're going to need a whole lot of removal to deal with him. That's going to be the primary things that I cover here. There are a lot of interesting things that came in here, but I wanted to start off with just covering the 2 nastiest pieces that are coming in that we know of from the set. And with one of them being uncommon, we should be prepared to see a lot of that being played in Magic. And if someone gets that card in a tournament or something like that, their whole deck is going to be built around this idea of trying to whittle down and eliminate players as quick as turn 2. So just be prepared for that. All right, and then I have one last piece of news. We have over on video cards, where we found out that Bitcoin prices may surge, but so does GPU mining. So Ethereum is currently producing $6 to $9 a day using a 3080 to mine. So because of this and the fluctuation of price, it's currently believed that this setup right here, which has 78 RTX 3080 cards, man, someone pumped a lot of money to get that. Well, they are producing 15 to 21,000 USD a month. So in about 6.5 months, it's expected that these cards will pay off themselves and then start earning a profit of 15 to 21,000 a month going forward. Now, we can have some depreciating returns on this. As things go by, we don't know what the value of Ethereum will be in 6 months. We also don't know that it's going to be as easy to acquire as much money from these in 6 months. In 6 months, it may be dropped down to the best you can do is between $7,000 and $12,000. But still, $7,000 to $12,000 in a month, even if this is just turning out, $2,000 to $4,000 in a month for Ethereum mining, that's a whole lot of money coming in to you in order to go out and spend. So if you're a miner, you've got a lot of upfront money to be able to just throw into this, because it's 78 cards. You're talking nearly 78 grand. And that's assuming that you are paying the secondary market price, given how hard it is to acquire these on the primary market. If it's the primary market, you can probably save a little bit of money on that. Maybe it goes down to, 60 grand, if 60 to 70 grand, depending upon where things fall, what you can get them for. But I wouldn't count on that type of thing and how many cards you can get your hands on. If you were interested in mining, this just gives an idea of where everything is falling with this, how long it takes to pay off one of these, and how much profit you can potentially earn with a setup like this, or even a smaller setup. And that's assuming everything were to remain steady as of today, which it won't. So expect that in 6.5 months, so getting into late July into August, you're probably not going to see that same return on investment. But of course, this does say that this takes into consideration cost of power in order to run all these things. So that could be a positive overall with this if you already have a base setup to start getting into here. All right, but that's going to be it for today. Remember, if you haven't already, click that follow button. Make sure you click the subscribe button over on YouTube if you haven't done that as well. Over there it is still Gray Falcon, GRAY_Falcon. And follow me on Twitter as the Gray Falcon. Until next time, have a good one.